But for now, more on today's grim anniversary of the disappearance of Caylee Anthony. NBC's Carrie Sanders is outside the Anthonys' home in Orlando, where a memorial is being planned. Carrie, good morning to you.
Well, good morning. It was 1 year ago that young Caylee Anthony disappeared. The 2-year-old and her mother walked out the door of the house there, and Caylee was never seen alive again. Her mother, Casey, is now charged with her murder and the cover-up.
Who killed 2-year-old Caylee Anthony? Even before her mother, Casey, was charged with the murder.
What can you tell us about Caylee?
Casey's evasiveness and lying to detectives caused a whirlwind of finger-pointing and suspicion.
Come on, give her a break.
But Casey also found her family is solidly behind her denials.
But I know the mother that you are and the person that you are.
And while Casey's behavior appears at minimum odd, like waiting a month to tell her mother and the detectives Caylee was missing, or her partying during those weeks she claims some mysterious person was holding her daughter, it is also clear this case is not open and shut. Detectives and prosecutors have never clearly stated a motive. Why would Casey, by most accounts a loving mother, want to kill her daughter? The medical examiner concluded the cause of death was homicide, but
the cause of death will be listed as homicide by undetermined means.
Forensic evidence taken from Casey's car would appear damning. Even her mother, Cindy, suspected something was amiss when she walked up to the vehicle.
I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
But defense attorney Jose Baez has long held that's really not evidence.
It's not accepted, or it's not a regular practice in any crime lab across the country. It's never been admitted in the state of Florida.
Other forensics that would appear damning at first glance may also be less so in court, where beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard. The duct tape found across Caylee's mouth was the same lot type as tape found in her garage. But the same lot type means it matched thousands of other rolls also sold in Orlando. If prosecutors have DNA evidence like saliva or fingerprints, they're yet to make that public. Still, prosecutors are confident they've upped this to a death penalty case.
The defense team is a group of heavy hitters, forensic experts Dr. Henry Lee and attorney Linda Kinney-Bodden, and death penalty expert Andrea Lyon. And Meredith, it's expected a trial in this case is still at least 1 year away.
All right, Carrie Sanders, thank you. Linda Kinney-Bodden is one of Caylee Anthony's lawyers, and her husband, Dr. Michael Bodden, is a forensic pathologist. He's involved with another high-profile investigation, the death of actor David Carradine, and they've also written a new crime novel, Skeleton Justice, which is out today. Good morning to you both. Interesting that it's out today because this is the anniversary of...
Well, we're excited. I mean, this was planned 3 years ago. Knopf Publishing had a 2-book deal. We did remain silent, and so...
So it has nothing to do with the fact that this is the day a year ago
that... Matter of fact, it was turned in 2007, and the pub date was for June of 2009.
As Carrie mentioned, this is the day a year ago that Caylee disappeared. Last time her grandparents saw her. Right. And many believe it might also be the day that she died, that she was killed. You're one of the lawyers who represent Caylee Anthony, who's been charged with murdering her daughter. Has she said anything to you about the significance of this day?
Well, you know, all I can tell you, Meredith, is we have an innocent client, and we're going to be addressing all these issues in court in the next year to come, and very strongly.
But has she said anything about this day in particular?
I can't tell you what client says. Can't do it. Major rule: don't call your malpractice carrier, because then I will have to write books for a living. So hopefully, you know, if I answered that, you know, I'd be a full-time author.
Linda, since we last sat here on the couch and talked, you have added another lawyer to the case. That's Andrea Lyon, who's a death penalty expert. And the prosecution has now put the death penalty back on the table. Why would they do that? Is there evidence that they have that would suggest that they could get that?
You know, again, we're going to be addressing all that in court. All I can tell you is that this is a great team, and Professor Lyon is probably one of the most incredible lawyers I've ever met. And I work with a lot of teams across the country on all these cases, and it's just a fabulous team. And I'm thrilled to be working with her, and I know that she is very happy to try to save the life of a young girl.
Will her coming on board now delay possibly the the beginning of the trial? Carrie already said it may not happen for another year.
That's going to be up to the court, the prosecutor, and the judges.
So you basically won't tell me anything, will you, Linda? This is a
skeleton justice. That's what I hope to tell you.
Let me, before we get to the book, and we will get to the book, I want to ask you about something that you've been involved in. A week ago, you performed an autopsy on David Carradine. There had already been one done in Bangkok, Thailand. He was found in his hotel, apparently hanging in the closet.
Right.
Originally, investigators thought it might be a suicide, but you've ruled that out. Based on what?
Based on the re-autopsy, the pattern of the ropes around the body are very important, and based on early information we've gotten from the death scene. We're in the process still of gathering a lot of the evidence from the scene of death, and also the toxicology is important. That's just being completed in crime lab. And I think we've ruled out suicide, but there were issues of homicide, of accident, of autoerotic deaths that came out. So we have to address each one of those possibilities, and we'll be able to do that probably within a week or two.
So at this point, you don't know the cause of death. You just have ruled out suicide as the cause of death.
We've ruled out the suicide as he did not intentionally take his life, and that's clear from the autopsy findings and the preliminary information from Thailand.
A lot of armchair investigators out there like myself who wonder how, if his hands were tied, how he could have done this by himself.
Oh, depending on the setup, the one can tie one's hands after setting something up, but part of the reason why some people think it's a homicide is because the grainy photograph that was the only one that was released so far would indicate that maybe somebody else tied his hands. And remember, this is a hotel, a major hotel. They have security cameras. They have electronic keys. So all of that information is being forwarded by the Bangkok police and determining a cause and manner of death. The autopsy is an important part of it, but the circumstances and the other evidence is important, and we'll be able to solve it. But the one thing we can rule out is intentional taking of his life.
Let's talk about your book, Skeleton Justice. Second one you've written. Took you 3 years to write it. Involves a forensic pathologist and a defense attorney. I feel like I'm looking at you guys, all right? Is it totally based on your day-to-day activities?
No, it's not. It's taken some of the cases we have and meshed them together in some other high-profile cases. And, of course, you write what you know about, and so we know about. But in this book, the two protagonists are not married. We are, and we're still married after 2 books, which is an amazing feat,
Well, one of the plot lines involves a teenager who becomes the preppy terrorist, is labeled by the media, and it seems to be the sole focus of the prosecution. Were you trying to send a message here, Linda, about the media and about our justice system?
Well, absolutely. Skeleton Justice is the name of the books. It's a double entendre for a legal and medical term, but also that, in any justice system, sometimes people's bones get picked clean, and it's not necessarily the right way to go for both the media, lawyers, judges, the public and all. You really have to look at cases and really take them for what they are and be honest and objective, and we hope to send that message to everybody.
And you think that's happening in the case of Caylee Anthonys?
Well, I just had a case, House versus Tennessee, a man who was on death row for 22 years who was exonerated. It certainly happened in that case, so I'm going to take you off track again.
All right, Linda and Michael, thank you so much
for your time
this morning.
Thank you.
And you can read an excerpt of Skeleton Justice on our website, todayshow.com.